Hi everybody, this is Father Moki Hino coming to you from the rectory at Good Shepherd Episcopal Church in Wailuku, Maui. Today is Thursday, April 10th, 2025, and this is Chicken Chat. We begin today by going over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Saturday, Dixie and I got back from the mainland, and we sort of found ourselves in the middle of the 5 o'clock service all of a sudden. It was a busy day, and 22 people came to the 5 o'clock service. So that may have something to do with the fact that immediately after the service we had a worship committee meetings. You know, we were trying to get all our ducks in a row before Holy Week starts. Then Sunday morning, 71 people were in attendance, and we had a really nice coffee hour put on by Nana Maggie Evangelista to remember her husband Pasquale, because it was his birthday, or would have been his birthday if he were still with us. So thank you to Nana Maggie for the wonderful spread for coffee hour. And also thank you to Louise Aloy and the team that she put together, because after the coffee hour, St. Matthew's conference room was packed with people who went up to make palm crosses to give out on Palm Sunday, this coming Sunday. And so it was quite the event from what I was told. I, of course, wasn't able to attend because it's my practice after church on Sunday to go and take care of some home communions. So I was off doing that while the folk were in the conference room making palm crosses. Oh yes, a special thank you, by the way, to Flori Pasalo and Ernesto Pasalo for cutting down and bringing in all those palms for us. And then Peter Lee Louise and I took some home and stripped them for everybody, because you've got to take the rib off of the leaves before you can fold them into crosses. Also, I'd like to thank Patty Pierce. Patty is a newcomer to Good Shepherd, and she has joined the choir, and she brings her flute and adds her flute music to the service. And it's it's been a very nice addition to the music. And so we thank Patty, as well as thanking the Bear team, the team from Bear, for the spaghetti lunch that they put on for Ka'ohana Kitchen on Sunday. This Sunday does begin Holy Week with Palm Sunday. So please know that at 5 o'clock on Saturday, we'll do the Liturgy of the Palms. 5 o'clock on 9 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, we gather in the courtyard for the Liturgy of the Palms. And then Ferdinand has arranged for a drum to be made available, and we're going to process into the sanctuary on Palm Sunday. So we're going to start up by the office courtyard under the monkey pod tree. Then we move into Holy Week. Our Maundy Thursday service with foot washing will be at 7 o'clock p.m. on Maundy Thursday. That's a week from today, so I believe that's the 17th. Good Friday, we will have the Good Friday liturgy with the veneration of the cross at 7 p.m. I believe that is April 18th. And then Saturday, it gets a little confusing because we have our normal 5 p.m. Saturday Eucharist. That Eucharist will be for Easter Sunday. And then at 7 o'clock, we will have the Great Vigil of Easter. So that is Saturday, April 19th. There are two services, the regular Eucharist at 5 and the Great Vigil of Easter at 7. 7. And I got an inquiry from a student at Seabury Hall who would like to come to the Great Vigil of Easter to see what it's like and to learn what it's like to worship in an inclusive church, which we definitely are. Then on Sunday morning, April 20th, that is Easter Sunday, our service will be at 9 o'clock. We will have a potluck after the service, so please bring something to share, as well as an Easter egg hunt, and then we all go home and collapse. All right, so that is Holy Week. Because Holy Week is no longer part of Lent. It's Holy Week, not Lent anymore. Our last daily reflection for Lent will be the day after tomorrow on Saturday. And now we are going to flash up the servants for this coming Sunday. And now just to give you a brief recap of our time in Los Angeles, because I did go for continuing education. So part of that was to travel to Manzanar, which was the largest, I believe, and the first Japanese internment camp that was placed or put into effect under an executive order during World War II. So if you're on the West Coast and a Japanese American, or you undoubtedly ended up in a relocation center like Manzanar. What I thought was so interesting was the drive out there, because it took so long, and I was just imagining what the people who went out there on a bus, how they must have felt, and seeing how incredibly cold it was. And you know, when we were there, they reconstructed the buildings to replicate the original buildings, and so they made the holes in the slats of the building, and it was freezing cold, and those people had no heat. The other thing is, they had exactly 5 days to prepare to leave. That meant, you know, taking care of their houses, finding people to take care of their businesses, and were allowed to bring whatever they could carry. And so many of them returned after the war and found that their homes and their land had been taken over and or destroyed. So that was really sad. Then the next day, I wanted to show Dixie Air Force One, the plane that Richard Nixon, Gerald Ford, Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan, and then for a very short time, George Bush Sr. used. And so we decided, yeah, we would make the trek out there because they had an exhibit of the Dead Sea Scrolls, which are the oldest recordings of the Old Testament that have been found to date. And they were placed in jars in Qumran to protect them from the destruction of the temple by the Romans in 72 AD. So that was really, really, really cool. And then, of course, we went and listened to Eckhart Tolle and the wonderful things that he had to say about the state of the world today, being in the present moment, and what the portals are to being in the present moment. And you'll hear a lot of that in my preaching in the weeks to come. So there, anyway, it was a quick trip. We're glad to be home, and we came home and hit the ground running, let me tell you. Got off the plane and started the setup for the 5 p.m., did the service, and then had the worship committee meeting, and came home and stripped palm leaves. So anyhow, there we go. And now it's time to remember everyone on our pastoral care prayer list by name. Let us pray.
Ireneo, Eric, Purificacion, Tom, Dutch, Lisa, Anthony, Julio, Lydia, Velma, Bill, John, Maggie, Shirley, Dolores, Juanito, Jacinta, Jose, Alexa, Charlotte, Robert H., Ingrid, Elizabeth, Cleo, Ernesto, Kathy, Penny, Gloria, Alfredo R., Brian, George, Margaret, Cora S., Barbara, Elena, Charlesta, Richard, Brianna, Paul, Lynn, Tomo.
God grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, courage to change the things we can, and wisdom to know the difference. Thank you very much, everybody. Our saint for today, April 10th, is Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. He was a mystic and scientist, and lived until 1955, so he's more recent. He said this: I want to teach people how to see God everywhere, to see him in all that is most hidden, most solid, and most ultimate in the world. He got into trouble for some of his teachings and his way of thinking, and was sort of marginalized by the church in Rome. He was a French Jesuit, and he lies behind a lot of the creative movements in contemporary theology and spirituality. Not much is known about his life before he became a religious person in the order of the Jesuits. And he was constantly denied permission by Rome and his superiors to publish any of his theological or philosophical writings. But what was so interesting was he wasn't allowed to publish them, but he did copy them and distribute them among Jesuits who were friendly to his cause, and that's likely how a lot of them made it into contemporary theology today. He was a scientist and an archaeologist. He was on the dig where they discovered the Peking man. And in addition to that, he, from 1923 to 1946, so this is until after World War II, 23 years, he was doing research in China. And his assignment there was kind of an exile because his superiors didn't want his writings and reflections to become part of the limelight in Europe. And then while he was in China, he worked out a lot of his most mature thoughts, so he really valued and enjoyed his time there. Like I said, copies of his writing were distributed hand to hand among friends and fellow Jesuits, and that's how a lot of his work got known. His last quote-unquote exile was in the United States, where he spent his final years in New York. And he said, I should like to die on the day of the resurrection. So it came to pass. He was felled by a heart attack and died on April 10th, 1955, Easter Sunday. And then after he died, his vision was released to the world. So that is Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. Very interesting. And I'm glad that the subversive mind was renegade enough to be persistent. Anyhow, one of the things that Dixie and I did while we were in Los Angeles, we had a little bit of downtime, so we went to the Hollywood Forever Cemetery. It's a famous cemetery. It used to be called the Hollywood Memorial Cemetery, and then this guy Tyler Cassidy bought it, and now it's the Hollywood Forever Cemetery. Rudy Valentino's buried there, Cecil B. DeMille, Tyrone Power, Mickey Rooney, Judy Garland, and we noticed, we were like, what is that sound? It was kind of like, and I told Dixie it was a goose. Because I know that there are geese on the premises. And then we were looking at this one headstone And sitting on top of the headstone was a peacock, this peacock. And then we noticed another peacock up walking in and out of all the crypts in this mausoleum. And then while we were looking for Judy Garland's grave, there was a peacock walking down the road with its feathers all fanned out like peacocks do. So we would like to name the chicken of the week this week Peacock. Thank you, Peacock, for being chicken of the week. Take care, everybody, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye now.